Vincent van Gogh. The fishermen know that the sea is dangerous and the storm is terrible, but they have never found these dangers sufficient reasons for staying ashore. Vincent van Gogh.
Hey everybody, this is Jessica and Darren Salquists with Next Level.
Good vibes only.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about the Black Loop Ragnar.
And the main part of it that I love the title is Embrace the Suck.
Yeah.
How amazing is that to actually hear Embrace the Suck and kind of be excited about it?
Yeah. And so with Embrace the Suck, this is something that we've been doing for a little while now. This started back, I think, 2 years ago when we did the Montana Spartan in Big Fork. And we were on the way to the venue, and I had just listened to this book, The Embrace the Suck, and David Goggins did the foreword to the book. And in this, he wrote a letter to an individual that was getting ready to go into Navy SEAL Academy, the camp. And he basically wrote this letter is like, which I won't drop all the F-bombs and everything, I just kind of give a little synopsis of it, is like, don't wish for sunny weather and to make it easy. Like, wish for it to be as challenging and as crappy as it can be, to embrace the suck. Because you know if you can get through this, that you're going to be able to get through anything. And that's what embracing the suck is that you don't have any control over what is going on. And so instead of being miserable about what's going on, just embrace it and endure it, change that mindset and take it on. And so that's kind of what we kind of went through this whole Embrace the Suck, where this weekend we did the 2024 Ragnar Black Loop at Mount Rainier, which the event was actually at Crystal Mountain.
Yeah.
And Jess, you want to break it down a little bit about what it was?
Yeah. I first want to just say one of the things that Brent Gleason says in the Embrace the Suck book, he does talk about accept life's challenges for what they are. Opportunities for growth and development. Make the choice to lean in, not run away. So when we signed up, so there's a whole kind of story. We're going to give you like the sequence of the story of how, like, along the way, we had obstacles and barriers, and we embraced the suck the whole time. And the mindset of the community, our CoreFit community, and the people that we surround ourselves around made it amazing. A lot of people would have been maybe gave up or just said, I can't do this or I don't want to do this. But first it started off with a friend of mine months and months ago saying, hey, I've got this schedule of my races and the things that I want to do. She's always looking for something that's different, something that's not ordinary. And so she had said, hey, Jessica, do you want to do this Ragnar? It's called the Black Loop. And so she's kind of started telling me a little bit about it. And I was like, oh, I'm super intrigued. That sounds really great. It sounds really challenging. And it's not something that I've ever would have thought of to do. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I talked to Darren and I said, hey, do you mind if I do it? And he's like, cool, do it. And I said, yes. And then...
Is that how it happened? Or did you just tell me you were doing it?
No, I asked.
You did.
I said, do you mind if I go and spend a weekend at Mount Rainier National Park doing this race with Tethra? And I think, I'm sure you didn't know all the ins and outs of the whole thing. Like, I was doing an event, basically. So...
Well, all I remember is when it came down is that you were doing it, which then I was like, that means... that I'm going to do it
right.
Because I didn't want to be a spectator.
That's right.
Because I've been there before when you've taken on an event and I was a spectator. And then day of, I was asking myself, why am I not doing this?
There is a little bit of FOMO going on. That happens.
I get FOMO, or I would always like to think, why am I not taking on this challenge?
Right.
When you did the STP, the Seattle to Portland ride.
Right.
I was like, I'm not riding that far. That's crazy. And then, of course, the day of the event, I'm like, why did I say no?
Why did I not do
Because I didn't want to put the training in.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't want to embrace the suck.
That's true. And it's experience. So I said yes because I was like, Oh, heck yeah. Mount Rainier. That's like the largest mountain in Washington State. Like, who wouldn't?
No, it's not the largest mountain.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
is.
No, I don't think
Really?
so.
Oh,
I don't
well, I'm
think
going to
so. I
say
don't
it's
know.
really big. It's really big.
It's big.
I've
I'm not
never
sure.
actually
Don't quote me.
hiked it, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to get close in encounters with Mount Rainier, which will it's funny because we'll tell you a little later how we actually got to see Mount Rainier or not. But we were on Crystal Mountain. And so our community member at Tethra, she already gave me the okay to say her name. She got me to do this, and I was doing it for the experience. I wasn't doing it for any kind of like competition. I thought this will be amazing and beautiful. Darren then started looking for a partner. So we were starting to prepare, which again, bringing in those virtues that we talk about quite often is the virtue of discipline, right? Going out there and training. The courage to say yes, right? We knew we were going to be saying no to other things, but we were courageous enough to say yes to this, knowing how much time it was actually going to take to do training. So giving you a little quick synopsis of what a Black Loop is. Basically, it's 2 days of running. It's 4 loops. And the first day you start, I'll just tell you when we started. We started at noon.
On Friday.
And it is, you start with your partner. You have to run with your partner basically the whole time. It's based off of your last person finishing. And so you're a team. So the first one is about 3 miles. I'm going to say give or take. I'm just going to give the roundup number. And then that is called the Green Loop. The second loop is Yellow Loop, and that's about 5-ish miles. And that's more elevation. There's a lot more elevation. You're going up to the top of Crystal Mountain. The third, then basically you're getting a 2.5 to 3 hour break in between each one of the runs. The third run then becomes the actual Red Loop, and this is where you take a gondola up to the top of Crystal Mountain and you run down it, and you have a little bit of elevation at the end.
That was 7 miles.
And that was 7 miles, and that's at 8 p.m. So you run in the dark. You have to have headlamps. You have to have flashlights, and it's pretty cool being out there. Different perspective of the view when it's pitch dark. Then the next day, so you go to bed. The next day you wake up 6:30 a.m. Then you run basically 19 miles. It's almost all of the loops you ran the day before, minus one of them. Plus, they add a Black Loop. And within that Black Loop, you are actually doing the additional, about 2,500 more or 4,000?
No, it's 3,000. So you're going down, I think it was 3 miles. So you did 5,000. Wait, now I'm getting all lost in my...
So basically at the very end,
3,000
I'm giving
feet
a
of
summary,
elevation,
is 11,000 feet of elevation within the 2 days. One day you're doing about 5. The next day you're doing about 6. So it's about 11,000 feet. And so with that, I mean, basically that's a courageous choice. And you have hope that you're going to actually finish it, right? There's a lot of elements out there that potentially could take you down, between weather to, the actual terrain itself. Wild animals are out there too. There's a lot of scat, a lot of bear scat and different things out there. And you're relying on, your partner to be able to do that. So there's all of these virtues of hope and courage and discipline, to get you to that point. And you're really, focusing on that mindset. So tell a little bit about the training. Like, what are you doing for discipline to get yourself there?
So yeah, part of this, I mean, again, looking at that resilience, the challenge, the commitment, and the control that you're bringing into this is, once you signed up for this thing, which, I don't know, was before June. I mean, we signed up pretty early.
Yeah.
But then we knew we were starting to train, and we had the Spartan race that we did in Montana. So we already had some training going on. And then now it was training, getting more elevation in. So in June, we started preparing by running up Mount Spokane. And we created this course, mapped out this course that was 16 miles with about just under 4,000 feet of elevation gain during that course. So we did that every weekend for 6 weeks. We would run on Fridays with our CoreFit community and get in 10 to 12 miles on Friday. And that was not so much more focused on elevation, although we would do about maybe 1,200 to 1,500 feet of elevation, but getting in that distance. And then on Saturday, we would get up, again, 5 a.m., so we can be on the mountain by 7:30 a.m. and take on that run. Number one, it was getting hot, right? There's days it was 90 degrees, and so that could be very challenging. And then what we were getting used to was running in the heat. And then during the week, what were we doing during the week? So during the week, I kind of created a little training plan for myself because we were doing different runs at different times of the day, where those first 3 runs where you'd run, then you'd have 3 hours or so, 4 hours of a break, and then you go run again. So I would run 3 miles at the gym and then see a couple clients, and I would run 3 miles again, so getting my body prepared in that type of scenario. And then I did different things with the sled and box steps and stuff like that to prepare for this event.
That's right. So we knew that it was going to take some discipline and some habits and things that were going to get us to this place, because we were ready to embrace the suck. And the lovely thing about it is that along with the time that we started training, more people became interested in doing this Black Loop with us as a community. And so it was really cool that Tethra kind of started this interest of people joining in. So at the end there, we ended up having 4 actual Black Loop teams, meaning that was 8 total people. And then we had a team of 8 relay that were going to do the actual relay race, which is basically 24 hours. They're taking turns running the first 3 runs of the first day, but it takes them, 24 hours or longer. So they're running all through the night, all different times, having huge gaps in between their runs. So challenge in itself, and they were there to also embrace that suck. One of the things that I thought was great is that Tethra and I's team name was OMS, which is Obstacles Make Me Stronger, which was a perfect title of the adventures and the journeys that we all went through, is that obstacles make me stronger. And we were creating that mindset of embracing the suck and being able to really understand that obstacles make me stronger. So we had the elevation, we had the discipline, we had months of being able to train. Again, like I said, we said yes to this and we said no to a lot of other things. It changed a lot of our plans through the few months. And then also we created all of these habits that we had installed already, which was so amazing because our sleep and our fuel and the things that we did on a daily basis really had already set the foundation for us to be successful with this training. So from that point on, as we got closer to the event, what's another challenge that came up for you, Darren, as we approached this awesome event?
So my goal was, one, changing my nutrition, which I was starting to do. I started creating different types of or eliminating certain types of foods that I wouldn't be eating during this training process. But also I really wanted to focus on my sleep. I wanted to make sure that I was getting good rest. And just like the week and a half before that, I was not getting good rest. And I don't know, just whatever was going on. I was definitely not being as disciplined as I would have liked. And sometimes allowing that digital, the phone or watching something on TV, a lot of stuff was going on with politics right now. So that's something I've been paying attention to. And so that was I was allowing myself to stay up, not being disciplined in that manner, which was affecting my sleep. And then the week before the race, I got a little bit of a cold or the sniffles.
Yeah.
And so I was dealing with that as well before the race.
And I think it's good to share the reality of how the habits that we do create, or maybe we slipped off something, impacts kind of our abilities, to be consistent, right? In that identity of who we are. And sometimes, we slip, or maybe not, our protocols are as great, but we feel it, right? You feel it and you want to jump back on the train. One of the other challenges that Darren had within 2 weeks of the race is that his partner
my partner had
notified him
a family thing come up, and that he notified me that he was not going to be able to participate in the race. And so I wasn't really too concerned because I knew I was going to run the race no matter what, whether it was going to be timed or I would just run on the course by myself until they chased me off. But since I figured I paid for it, that I'd at least be able to run by myself. But I also planned on running with Jessica and Tethra and running with their group. I wasn't really too concerned. But I did put out the feelers to see if anybody wanted to join me. And a few of the individuals that I had asked had already signed up for a different event the week prior. They did a 24-hour ruck. So that's kind of community members we have. All these individuals are always doing something, right? So that kind of left me to really think about, where else could I go? And thankful for Facebook and Instagram. A former member, a Corfit member that came to us. Him and his wife were traveling nurses, and they came here from Arizona to work here in Spokane. Came to Corfit and just became a big part of our community and obviously part of our family in Corfit. And he had just been happening to be working in the Seattle area. And so I reached out to him with less than 2 weeks notice to say, hey, Jeff, I'm looking for a partner. I sent him a text. You want to do this Black Loop Ragnar thing? And he was like, hell yeah. He's up for the challenge because I have to tell you, I haven't been doing hardly any training, but I'm up for it just as long as you know that we're not going to set any records. And I let him know. I said, listen, my goal is just to go out and enjoy this race, just to go out and be able to compete and do it with somebody that I'm going to enjoy doing it with. And I'm not here to win. I'm not here to take a trophy. That's not what this race is about. This race is just simply to do something I've never done before and then to embrace the suck, to take on a challenge. And that's what I think moving from that fixed mindset to that growth mindset is that we endure challenges and seeing what we're capable of. And so he was down.
That's right. And what I love is that even though Darren received notice that his partner was out, not a teeny tiny bit of training differences, right? It's just, he just continued to have that discipline and continue training. There was no question of I'm not going to go on that long run today. Just even if there was any doubt that he wouldn't be able to have a partner. And one thing I asked Darren, I said, hey, if somebody called you on the way home from the race after we were done, so if someone called you 2 weeks prior and you weren't training with the elevation and all the things that you knew you were going to be successful, would you say yes? And he said,
of course.
Yes.
I'm always up for a challenge.
Oh, wow. So that's just the theme of our conversation today is really enjoying to embrace the suck. I mean, what's in you? What do you have in you? Is it something you really want to do? And if you do, I'm not talking about going out and wrecking yourself, but I'm talking about the nice thing about it is that they had an understanding of they're going out to have a good time. You can get through anything, even if it takes some extra hours or whatever it may take, is you're going to embrace that suck. You're going to do it and you're going to feel so accomplished and amazing after you're done with that.
Yeah. So, during this part, we're getting ready to leave and, we've been training in this hot weather. And of course we look at the weather that we're going to be at where it's going to be at Crystal Mountain, and the weather is totally opposite of what it has been. It's been in the 80s and 90 degrees here. Over there, it's in the possibly 38, 39 degrees for the low, with the with the highs being maybe 54. There is potential chance of rain, so we're setting up, getting ready to leave, and we're thinking, okay, what are we going to bring? I'd already planned on having, we're doing 4 races. I was bringing 4 different pairs of socks, 4 different pairs of shorts. I knew I was changing for every race. I wanted every race to feel like it was a new race and it was fresh. So I had prepared for that. And then instead of wearing a tank top, which I thought that's what I was going to wear, I had to start looking for all my winter clothing and to see if I had enough to be prepared. Because it's different going from 80, 90 degrees to that 40 degrees and not being acclimated to that weather. And also knowing that I was going to let Jeff set the pace because I had been training and he had not. So I wasn't going to expect him to keep it with me if I wanted him to enjoy all 4 races. That I probably would be running at a pace that was going to keep me warm, that we'd probably be walking at times, and that was going to be cold. So that was something that we needed to prepare for. And plus all of the wetness, because when we got there, what did we find?
Well, it was wet, it was cold, it was windy, it was foggy. I mean, my dad had said, hey, I just want you to know I see some snowflakes potentially in the forecast. And so we are not, we have experienced the wet, the cold, the rain. So literally as we're walking out the door, Darren says, we better bring our rain jackets. And I said, oh yeah. And I just started grabbing long sleeves and rain gear and stuff. And thank goodness that I did that. I just threw in some random extra things knowing that, okay, this will be good enough. But it didn't really hit me till we actually got there, because we got there, we set up our tent camp, right? We had our own little tent city. And then the rain came, right?
Yeah, there was 18 in our group, and we set up that tent. We got there, which was nice. Hey, it was thankful that it wasn't raining when we got there, but we knew it was raining on the way there. So we knew we were going to have rain. We set up our tents. We enjoyed 18 of us that were there, all from Corfit. Again, strong community representing all the way over at Mount Rainier, making a 4-hour drive to do this race. We enjoyed a nice dinner. And then we went to bed. And what happened during the night?
Well, it rained a lot.
Skies
it was
opened
very
up.
loud. Yeah, heavy rain. Like that night, that dinner was like our last meal, like
Warm.
our
Nice, good
last
warm
warm
meal, yeah.
meal, because nobody had the ability at that point, because of the next 2 days, to try to make food and do things that you would normally do at a campsite, because they were so cold. It was just too cold to actually try to figure out how to make warm meals. But the sky opened up, the rain came down, people's tents just became saturated. We had a little river kind of running through our campsite next to it, and from all that condensation, right? Your tent can only handle so much.
Well, some people's tents were actually leaking. They found out that their tent was not weatherproof. So
Right.
during the middle of the night, they had to get up and throw a tarp over their tent because they were wakened up by raindrops on their face.
Or I think Tanis was mentioning she was sleeping with black garbage bags over her. I mean, there was some dripping happening.
Yeah.
There was some, you can't touch the sides of your tents, but it was pretty cool. But what I liked is, as the rain started falling, though, and everybody was together, we got our only really big group picture at that point in time.
On that night?
That night, and Darren's like, okay, so let's do our tradition.
Well, this is the morning.
The morning, yeah. Darren said, let's do the tradition that we play the David Goggins foreword for the book, Embrace the Suck, and we listen to it. And so it's encouraging to really like be able to face that challenge and find some appreciation in it. Because if you're looking for easy, then go back to your comfort space, at home, under your roof and in your warm, cozy house. But if you're looking for easy, those challenges, you won't know what you're made of. You won't know what you have to bring to the table. And what I really enjoyed about that is, after that little chat that we had, then we decided to find all of the gratitude and the positive things that are occurring because it's not 90 degrees, right? Like, okay, well, the opposite, what would the opposite be? If it's not raining and freezing, the opposite would be that it's super hot and we wouldn't be able to cool down and we could get dehydrated, right? We were being grateful that there was no dust, right? Running in the dust and having all of that craziness can be hard too. We were talking about we didn't need bug spray and we didn't need sunscreen. And I think we came up with 15 things in the next couple of days why it was glorious, and we were grateful that there was no sun shining.
Yeah, and in this book, Embrace the Suck, Brent Gleason talks, because he states, let me ask you this. When the hell have you ever accomplished anything spectacular while nestled safely in your comfort zone? We both know the answer. Never. And that's why I think we do these races. We go out and endure these things. We put ourselves in these situations. We don't have to. This is what we get to do, right? Gratitude every single time that we get to go out there and see what we're capable of, doing the training and then going out for this event. And again, we're doing more training than we actually did spending in the event. And that's what it's all about. It's the training. It's the work up to it. It's not just showing up to the event, but it's all the hours that you put into it. And changing that mindset, changing your philosophy, dealing with certain things during that time, and embracing the suck.
It may have moments of peer, like I kept saying, that one thing that is really tough for me is I don't like being cold. Like, I just don't like being cold. I'd rather be hot. But the love of the community that basically comes out at that moment, that everybody's there to help each other. If you need more fuel, people are giving more fuel. If somebody needed more clothes, they'd give over their clothes. I literally, some of the challenges that came up is on the second race with the elevation, my partner had fallen and injured herself. And she injured herself to the point that she was no longer able to continue. And the love of the community embracing the fact that, hey, if you can't keep going, you're making a choice that's best for you. Yeah. And that's okay. And we may have been, my team may, have been disqualified itself, but that's not stopping me. That's not stopping me at all. And I had the most lovely support and encouragement from my partner, Tethra, because she inspired us all to get there.
Yeah.
Like, there was a purpose for all of this, that she inspired us to be there. There's 16 of us now that got to experience this amazing thing together, and she remained part of it. She just wanted to give
17.
back. 17. She wanted to be part of it. I mean, she literally was giving me her clothes. I was like, oh, I need more clothes. I need gloves for the next race, and just giving me all the things that I needed and the support. And that's the virtue of love with having this community. Like, if we were just out there by ourselves, experience would have been completely different.
Yeah.
But we have this amazing community, and that's the virtue of love, the virtue of gratitude. There's just so many amazing things that we get to live through every day by having these experiences and embracing the suck and being able to have the mindset together to hold each other up so that we can be successful. Because I think of this last weekend as a huge success. As much as, like we said, there was a lot of suck to it and a lot of moments of challenge and obstacles, but every one of us overcame them all.
Yeah, and that's what being a part of a great community is that you're inspired by individuals and you're going to do things that you never thought you would do. And again, this team, it just started out with Jessica and Tethra, and then I joined the team, and then pretty soon we had 16 people going out there, right? When it started with 2. So as we go into this, one of the races was at night. We endured that. That was not a big problem. Tethra had that fall. She had to make that tough choice. And again, all the support, because we all know how difficult that is to not continue on this journey. And that takes a lot of courage too.
Yep.
To say no.
Yeah.
Right. So hats off to her to have that courage to be able to say no.
Thank you, Tethra.
During the race on the second day, the 18 miles, 3 miles into it, I'm eating an electrolyte that happened to be like a gummy, and it popped my crown.
That's right.
So I lost my crown during the race, right in the 3 miles, but no big deal. The only thing I was thinking about was like, oh man, I was going to get pizza after this. How am I going to enjoy a good pizza?
Still did.
But we finished it. Jeff also endured. During the middle of the night, he was contemplating about not doing the day 2 race because he was sore, and we had 18 plus miles to go with 6,000 feet of elevation and in the cold and rain. But same thing, right? He instead of listening to himself, he talked to himself.
That's right.
And he got himself out there, and we finished it. And so Jessica ran with us, which was awesome. So we got to do the race actually together in a version. And so Jeff and Jessica and I all crossed the finish line together.
That's right.
And then we supported our team. And here we are talking about it.
That's right. So the goal of this is to sometimes turn and face that challenge and really be okay with embracing the suck, because just like Darren said, is when has the greatest accomplishments of your life ever occurred by sitting on your comfy couch in your comfy house with your heated blanket and you're all comfy cozy with your hot cocoa? What really, turn into it and see what you're made of. And again, what is important to you? Because when you say yes to something else, and if you really want to do it well, you're going to be saying no to something else.
Yeah. And again, embracing whatever comes your way, because it's uncontrollable, right? A lot of the things that we endured, the rain, the crown, all the different choices that we had to make during this event, the cold, those weren't things that we're expecting, but you could sit there and complain about it, which is going to do nothing, or you just sit there, you know what? Embrace the suck. Bring it on, baby. Bring it on. Let's do this. So take your life to the next level.
Good vibes only.
Peace.